As human beings, the way in which we experience life to a great degree is through our human senses. Oftentimes, our human senses can become disoriented or out of tune with each other or with themselves based on different sensory experiences that we've had. This guided imagery is cleaning the house of senses. Get yourself, please, in a comfortable position. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep cleansing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And imagine, if you would please, in any way that you choose to imagine, a house, your house of senses. This house of yours has 6 senses in it. The sense of sound, the sense of sight, the sense of touch, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, and the sense of energy or intuition. And if you would please, just imagine looking objectively from the outside of this house. And notice anything about the outside of this house that you think would be best upgraded or improved. Whether it be the ceiling or roof, the walls, the property around it, anything that you see as you imagine looking at your house of senses from the outside. Imagine all of these things being done the way that you would choose to have them be. The landscape, the roof, the windows, the surroundings in any way, the colors, the materials in any way, so that even from the outside, your house of senses is just as you would have it be, even from the outside. When you've done this, imagine or pretend to imagine that you enter your house of senses. And in entering your house of senses, imagine first that your first room that you have entered represents your sense of touch. And notice everything and anything that might be in this room of your sense of touch. Whether there are pictures, if there are pictures with people that you care about in this room, how these pictures look. Whether there are items or relationships that you're interested in today represented in this room that represents your sense of touch. And notice the furnishings, the flooring, the lighting, the ceiling, in this room that represents your sense of touch. And anything that you choose to change, to improve on, to upgrade, to clean, anything that you choose regarding this room that represents your sense of touch, so that you personally are much more comfortable in this room that represents your sense of touch, so that you personally feel safe and secure in this room that represents your sense of touch. And imagine, or pretend to imagine, situating yourself comfortably in this room of your sense of touch. And notice from a comfortable position any other changes, deletions, or additions that you might choose to make in this room that represents your sense of touch. And when you are completely comfortable with the way that the room that represents your sense of touch is, imagine or pretend to imagine that you step into the next room. And the next room is your room that represents your sense of energy and intuition. And imagine or pretend to imagine all the things, any of the things that you might imagine being in your room that represents your sense of energy and your sense of intuition. And notice these items that may represent your sense of energy and your sense of intuition, that they are the items that you choose to represent these senses. That these items, in the way that they're furnished and placed in this room representing your sense of energy and intuition, are items that help you, that motivate you, that help you to feel confident with your intuitions, knowing that your intuitions, along with your sense of energy, is for you to help improve you, to help improve those that you love, those that you care for. And imagine or pretend to imagine doing anything and everything that might need to be done in this room to make this room more comfortable for you, to make this room more secure and confident for you regarding especially your sense of intuitions, your sense of energy, knowing that this room, as well as the room of touch, intersect and can join and cross each other whenever you choose to have these rooms interact. And sit for a moment, if you would please, in this room that represents your sense of energy and intuition. And just think or notice or feel if there may be an intuition if there may be objects representing your intuitions or your energies. And when you are completely comfortable and confident with these things, making sure that this room is secure, as you leave this room, enter, if you would please, or imagine entering the third room, being the room representing your sense of sight. And notice in this room of your sense of sight the objects and furnishings that might be in this sense of room representing your sense of sight, and their colors, their structures. Notice the brightness or the shadows, and imagine or pretend to imagine adjusting all of the things in any of these things in this room that represents your sense of sight, so that your sense of sight is more how you would choose it to be. That the objects in this room are objects that would assist you with your sense of sight, whether they be telescopes, magnifying glasses, computers, whatever you choose that might assist you with your sense of sight. And when you've adjusted this room to where you feel like you're safe, you're secure here, imagine sitting for a moment in this room and notice or imagine noticing what ideas might come to you as you sit, looking, enjoying yourself in your room of the sense of sight, in your house of senses. And when you know that your ideas, your reasons, and your sense of sight has everything here in this room that you might need, then leaving this room secure, imagine entering your room for your sense of sound. And in your room for your sense of sound, notice all of the objects or furnishings that might be there that might help you with your sense of sound. And notice the quality. Notice the positioning of these items and furnishings. Notice the walls. Notice the ceiling and the floor. And even notice the lighting, even though this is the sense of sound. And choose for yourself how you would have this room of your sense of sound, so that your sense of sound is exactly as you would choose, that you have everything in your sense of sound, that your room of your sense of sound has quality, has integrity, so that the sound is not only clear and precise, the sound and the only sounds are true sounds, true sounds, sounds that have meaning, and that the sounds that have no meaning, there are objects and equipment to deal with the sounds of no meaning. And sit or imagine sitting in your room of the sense of sound, and imagine sounds, sounds that have meaning to you, sounds that are of value to you. And imagine or pretend to imagine, if you choose, even being able to adjust the sound so that the sounds that have meaning or no meaning are dealt with as you, truly you, would choose to deal with them. And when this room of the sense of sound is exactly as you would have it be, imagine going into the next room. And the next room will be the room that represents your sense of smell. Now, entering your room of the sense of smell, notice the objects, the furnishings. Notice all things in the room of your sense of smell, that they represent things regarding your sense of smell that assist you, that help you. And make sure in your room of the sense of smell that any smells or any other product coming from any objects or any furnishings in your room of the sense of smell, that there's a way in this room that if there's anything like smoke or any other kind of a byproduct, that it has a way of leaving your room of the sense of smell and completely leaving your house of senses with no effect left behind at all. And notice and make any and all improvements that you choose to make, so that all of the objects and all of the furnishings in your room of the sense of smell is exactly how you would have it be. Whether it be pictures on the wall, from lights in the ceiling, anything and everything that you choose. Make any and all of the adjustments that you choose to make in this room of your sense of smell. And when you have done this, imagine or pretend to imagine sitting in this room and enjoying, experiencing, noticing the effect that this room now has on you. The ability you may have in this room exactly as you choose that it is, to be able to plan things more clearly to be able to understand the processes of things more clearly. And from this position, make any and all other adjustments that you might choose to make. And when you're completely sure, when you're comfortable and confident and able to know that in this room, representing your sense of smell, nothing interferes. No byproduct or anything interferes with your ability to understand the processes of things. Imagine going into your next room, which is the room that represents your sense of taste. And entering this room that represents your sense of taste, notice all of the objects and furnishings here, representing your sense of taste. Notice their placement. Notice the floor, the ceiling and the walls, the lighting. Notice all aspects in this room of your sense of taste that might represent and affect your sense of taste. And you choose. And you change. Whatever, however you choose. All of the objects or any of them, all or any of the furnishings, or lighting, or textures, floors, or anything you choose to change. You choose, and you imagine or pretend to imagine the changes that you choose for the room that represents your sense of taste, so that your sense of taste understands very clearly all that you choose, it understand, so that your sense of taste isn't prejudiced, isn't biased, isn't cluttered in any way by anything that's in this room. That you know of your own accord, your own character. And the objects and the furnishings in this room represent not only your character, but the character of those that you enjoy being with, those that you love, those that you care for. And when you have made any and all of the changes in this room that you choose to make, imagine or pretend to imagine sitting. And notice, as you imagine sitting now in this room, notice as you look at the objects and the furnishings, notice how you feel about yourself, the sense you have of the person that you truly are, the character traits that you truly have, the traits that you truly admire in others. And if there's anything else that you choose to change in this room before leaving it, please do so that this room also is exactly as you would have it be. And when you've done all that you choose to do in these 6 rooms, in your house of senses, imagine leaving again and looking again from the objective point of view on the outside of the house. And imagine walking around and looking at it from all angles, and make any and all other adjustments you might choose to make. And remember, our senses is the way we experience our world through our senses. And remember to care and to govern our senses. Thank you.